What if I told you that everything you think you know about the Roloff family is wrong? What if the smiles for the camera, the forced family events, and the carefully edited scenes are all a lie, covering up a fracture so deep it threatens to bring the entire 25-season legacy of Little People, Big World crashing down? For months, the narrative has been simple. It's Zach versus Matt, a father and son torn apart by the sale of Roloff Farms. But that's the story they want you to believe. It's an easy story, the cover story. Today, we expose the real war, the one happening behind closed doors, away from the prying eyes of TLC's cameras. This is the story of a Cold War that has turned hot, a conflict that has nothing to do with the farm and everything to do with one man and one devastating comment. We have an unconfirmed report from an insider, a source deep within the production, that has blown the lid off the entire Roloff family dynamic. This isn't about land. This is about loyalty, betrayal, and a shocking critique of Zach and Tori's parenting that has led to an ultimatum. The bombshell claim: Chris Merrick, Amy Roloff's husband, now allegedly refuses to be in the same room as Zach and Tori. And in return, Zach and Tori have drawn a line in the sand. The fallout is so massive, so catastrophic, that our sources claim they are now filming their family scenes on completely separate days, forcing production to work around a family that can no longer stand to be together. This isn't just a disagreement. This is a schism. And we have the details. We're about to break down the exact alleged comment that Chris made. We'll reveal the chain reaction of fury and ultimatums that followed, and we'll connect the dots with evidence you may have missed on screen and on social media that proves this theory isn't just a theory, it's the horrifying new reality for the Roloff family. But before we pull back the curtain on this exclusive deep dive investigation, I need you to do one thing. If you are tired of the surface level recaps and want the real, unfiltered, behind the scenes drama of the Roloff family, then prove it. Hit that like button right now. And more importantly, click subscribe and turn on notifications. Our channel, LPBW Update, is dedicated to uncovering the stories that TLC won't tell you. You do not want to miss what's coming next. All right, let's get into it. To understand the explosion, you first have to understand the bomb. We need to go back and trace the cracks in the foundation of this family. The illusion of peace, Chris Merrick's delicate position. When Chris Marek entered the world of the Roloffs, he was presented as the calm after the storm. After decades of a tumultuous and often publicly painful marriage between Matt and Amy, Chris was the steady, easygoing real estate agent who brought a smile back to Amy's face. He was the outsider, and for a while, that was his strength. He had no stake in the decades-long family feuds. He wasn't a Roloff by blood, so he could, in theory, be a neutral party. On camera, he played the part perfectly. He was a supportive husband, the willing, if sometimes awkward, stepfather figure. He offered advice to Amy, he tried to bond with the kids, and he even attempted to be a bridge between Amy and Matt. Remember those scenes of Chris and Matt having a beer, talking man to man? That was all part of building the image. Chris, the peacemaker. But we, the dedicated viewers, the ones who analyze every glance and every word, we started to see something else. A pattern began to emerge. Chris Marek isn't just a passive observer. He has opinions, strong ones, and he has a tendency to voice them, often cloaked in the guise of just being honest or playing devil's advocate. Think about it. During the height of the farm negotiations between Amy and Matt, who was gently pushing Amy to sell her share and move on, it was Chris. He framed it as wanting a new life with her, away from the drama. And while that's a fair desire, it also conveniently aligned with Matt's goal of getting full control of the north side of the property. Then, during the sale negotiations between Matt and Zach, Chris was again the voice of reason. He was the one who, on camera, seemed to suggest that Zach's expectations were perhaps too high, that Matt's position was understandable from a business perspective. He was trying to be pragmatic, but to Zach and Tori, who were feeling emotionally steamrolled by their own father, Chris's pragmatism could have easily been interpreted as a betrayal. It was taking a side without saying you were taking a side. He was no longer just Amy's husband. He was an active player in the family's political landscape. He had been absorbed into the system, and he was forming his own alliances and, more importantly, his own judgments. This is the crucial context. Chris wasn't just some innocent bystander who made a random, clumsy comment. According to our exclusive theory, he was a man who had been observing, analyzing, and forming a very strong and ultimately very damaging opinion about his new extended family. And that opinion was about to detonate. Now we get to the heart of it. The moment everything changed, our source, who must remain anonymous to protect their livelihood, has provided a chilling account of an off-camera confrontation that happened sometime after the public fallout over the farm. The setting, according to the report, was not a big filmed family event. It was a smaller, more intimate gathering, perhaps a dinner at Chris and Amy's new house, the kind of get-together where guards are down and true feelings can slip out. Zach and Tori were there, likely at Amy's request, in an attempt to maintain some semblance of a normal family relationship. The conversation, as it often does, turned to the ongoing family stress. Zach and Tori were likely venting about Matt, venting about the financial pressure of buying their new home in Battleground, Washington, venting about the emotional toll it was all taking on them and, by extension, on their children. This is where Chris Marek made his move. He had been listening quietly, and perhaps he saw this as an opportunity to offer his pragmatic wisdom once again. Perhaps he genuinely thought he was helping. Or, if you take a more cynical view, perhaps he was tired of hearing the same complaints and decided it was time for some tough love. According to our insider, the conversation was about the challenges of raising their kids, particularly Jackson, who has faced numerous health scares and surgeries related to his achondroplasia. Zach and Tori live with the constant worry and the significant financial and emotional costs associated with his medical needs. They were connecting this stress to the farm deal falling through, arguing that if Matt had been fair, they would have had more stability and security for their children. And that's when Chris allegedly dropped the bomb. He didn't yell, he didn't scream. He said it calmly, which, according to our source, is what made it so devastating. The alleged comment was something to this effect, and I'm paraphrasing, based on the details we received. Maybe if you two spent less energy being angry at Matt and more energy focusing on a stable future, your kids wouldn't have to grow up in a household so full of stress and uncertainty. Great parenting is about creating a peaceful environment, not constantly fighting battles you can't win. Let's dissect that. Let's break down the sheer brutality of that statement from Zach and Tori's perspective. It invalidates their feelings. He's telling them their righteous anger at Matt is just wasted energy. It questions their financial planning. The phrase focusing on a stable future is a direct shot at their choices, implying they are fiscally irresponsible. It weaponizes their children against them. This is the kill shot. Your kids wouldn't have to grow up in a household so full of stress. He's not just critiquing their fight with Matt. He's claiming their handling of it is actively harming Jackson, Lila, and Josiah. It defines great parenting for them. The final line, great parenting is about creating a peaceful environment, is the ultimate condescension. It's a man with no biological children of his own who has been in their lives for only a few years, telling a son who grew up in the chaos of the Matt and Amy dynamic and his fiercely protective wife how to be great parents. To Zach and Tori, this wasn't advice. This was an attack on the very core of their identity as parents. It was a judgment from a man they likely already felt was not fully in their corner. The explosion and the ultimatum. The aftermath was, as our source described it, nuclear. There was no discussion. There was no debate. Tori, who is known for being the mama bear of the family, allegedly shut down immediately. The conversation was over. The visit was over. Our report claims she and Zach gathered their things and left without another word, leaving a stunned Amy and a defensive Chris in their wake. But it didn't end there. The rage festered. This wasn't something that could be swept under the rug. For Zach, this was a deeper betrayal than anything even Matt had done. Matt's actions were about business, about land, about a father-son dynamic gone wrong. This, from Chris, was personal. It was an attack on his wife and his ability to provide a good life for his children. According to our insider, a series of furious phone calls followed. Zach allegedly called his mother Amy and laid it out in no uncertain terms. He told her what Chris had said and how incredibly damaging it was. This put Amy in an impossible position, caught between her son and her husband. But the final, most significant move was the ultimatum delivered to the TLC production team. Zach and Tori are at this point veterans of reality TV. They know their value to the show. With Jeremy and Audrey gone and Molly out of the picture, Zach is the only one of Amy and Matt's children still on the series. He, Tori, and their kids are arguably the central focus for a huge portion of the audience. They have leverage, and they used it. The report claims that Zach and Tori's camp informed production of the incident and stated a new non-negotiable term for their continued participation on Little People, Big World. They would no longer film in the same location on the same day as Chris Merrick. They would fulfill their contractual obligations. They would film with Amy, but only alone. They would film their own family storylines. They would even, begrudgingly, film scenes involving Matt and Corinne if absolutely necessary for major events like pumpkin season. But Chris Marek was now, to them, persona non grata. He was a red line. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why the show has felt so disjointed, so fractured. It's not just editing, it's a logistical nightmare for the producers who are now forced to build their entire filming schedule around a family civil war. The on-screen evidence connecting the dots. Now, you might be saying, this is all based on an unconfirmed report, and you're right. But this is where our investigation goes a step further. We're now going to present circumstantial evidence, the clues that have been hiding in plain sight on your television screen and on social media that support our insiders' claims. Evidence point number 1, the segregated scenes. Go back and watch the last season. Pay close attention. When do you ever see Chris, Amy, Zach, and Tori sitting in a room together? Just the 4 of them having a casual conversation? You don't. You see Chris and Amy. You see Zach and Tori. You see Amy visiting Zach and Tori's house alone. You see Zach maybe stopping by the farm to talk to Amy alone. The interactions are always carefully managed. It's Amy acting as the go-between, the ambassador shuttling between 2 warring nations. Even at larger family gatherings, watch closely. The camera angles are clever. They'll cut between a shot of Zach and Tori talking to their kids and then a separate shot of Chris and Amy talking to other people. They are in the same geographic location, but they are not in the same scene. The editors are working overtime to create the illusion of a family get-together, but the body language and the physical distance tell the real story. They are actively avoiding each other. Evidence point number 2, the holiday snubs and social media silence. Social media is a battlefield of subtleties, and the Roloffs are masters of the passive-aggressive post. For years, Tori has been a prolific poster sharing moments from her family's life. Pay attention to who is and who isn't included. During recent holidays like Thanksgiving or Christmas, you'll see posts from Tori about spending time with family, but the photos will conspicuously feature only her kids, Zach, and perhaps her side of the family. Amy might get a mention or appear in a photo from a separate one-on-one visit, but Chris, he's a ghost. He's not tagged. He's not in the pictures. He is digitally absent. Likewise, look at Amy's posts. She will post pictures with Chris and then separate pictures from her visit with Zach's family. The whole happy blended family photo op has ceased to exist. Compare this to a few years ago when group photos were the norm. The silence on social media is deafening, and it points directly to a major rift that goes beyond just the farm drama with Matt. Evidence point number 3, the shift in Amy's on-screen narrative. Watch Amy's confessionals from the recent season. She is a woman in turmoil. She constantly talks about the divide in the family. But listen carefully to her wording. She rarely, if ever, frames it as just Matt and Zach. She speaks in broader terms. She talks about the difficulty of getting everyone together and her desire for her family to be whole. Our theory is that she's not just talking about her ex-husband and her son. She's carrying the weight of the secret war between her current husband and her son. The stress and sadness you see in her eyes are not just about the farm. It's the pain of being the fulcrum in a new and perhaps more personal family breakdown. She is trying to keep the peace between the two most important men in her life, and she is failing. This explains the depth of her on-screen anguish in a way the Matt-Zach feud alone simply cannot. The grand conspiracy, motive, means, and opportunity. So why would Chris risk it all? Why would he make such a catastrophic comment? This is where we move beyond the what and into the why. This wasn't just a slip of the tongue. We believe it was the culmination of a power play, whether conscious or subconscious. Theory number 1, the new patriarch syndrome. Chris Marek, for all his go-with-the-flow attitude, stepped into a family that had a massive power vacuum. Matt Roloff, while still the owner of the farm, had abdicated his day-to-day role as the family's central patriarch when he and Amy divorced. Chris, as Amy's new husband, may have felt the need to step into that role. He sees himself as a provider of wisdom and stability for Amy, and by extension, the rest of the family. His comment to Zach and Tori in this light isn't just an insult, it's an assertion of authority. It's the new man of the house, telling the younger generation how they should be conducting their affairs. He wildly miscalculated how that assertion would be received by a son who has his own family and has never looked to Chris as a father figure. Zach doesn't want a new patriarch. He wants to be the patriarch of his own family. Theory number 2, misguided protection of Amy. Let's explore a more charitable yet equally disastrous motive. Chris loves Amy. He sees the pain that the constant family drama, especially the fighting with Matt, causes her. He likely sits at home and listens to Amy vent her frustrations and her sadness over the broken relationship between her and her children, and between the children themselves. From his perspective, the source of all this pain is Zach and Tori's unwillingness to let the farm issue go. He sees their anger at Matt as the poison infecting the entire family system and, most importantly, hurting his wife. So his comment wasn't an attack, but a misguided attempt to solve the problem. He thought if he could just get Zach and Tori to see the bigger picture and move on, then Amy would finally have peace. It was a clumsy, ham-fisted attempt to protect his wife that backfired in the most spectacular way possible. Theory number 3, the unspoken alliance with Matt. Now for our most explosive theory. What if Chris Marek's comment wasn't just his own opinion? What if it reflected a sentiment he shares with Matt Roloff? Chris and Matt have a surprisingly amicable relationship for an ex-husband and a new husband. They've been shown on camera getting along, working on projects together, and respecting each other's roles. They both come from a more traditional business-first mindset. Is it possible that in their private conversations, Matt has expressed his own frustrations about Zach and Tori? That he's complained about their perceived sense of entitlement or their handling of the situation? And Chris, finding that he agrees with Matt's assessment, ended up becoming Matt's unwitting mouthpiece. When Chris told Zach and Tori to stop fighting battles they can't win, was he just echoing the very sentiment Matt Roloff himself feels? From Zach and Tori's perspective, this would be the ultimate betrayal. It would mean that Chris isn't a neutral party, or even on Amy's side. It would mean he has effectively sided with the enemy. This would make reconciliation not just difficult, but impossible. The fallout serves Matt's interests perfectly. It further isolates Zach and Tori from the rest of the family, leaving Matt in a stronger position. What this means for the future of Little People, Big World. The implications of this schism are colossal. They stretch far beyond hurt feelings and awkward holiday dinners. This threatens the very existence of the show that has been a television staple for nearly 2 decades. A reality show about a family is predicated on one simple thing: the family interacting. If your core cast members refuse to be in the same room, you no longer have a show. You have 2 separate shows that you are trying to edit together, and audiences can feel it. The artifice becomes too obvious, the cracks become chasms. This forces a choice upon TLC and the Roloff family. Option 1, the charade continues. They continue the logistical nightmare. They film everyone separately, using Amy as the bridge, and hope the editors can work magic to create a semblance of a cohesive story. This is unsustainable. The show will feel increasingly hollow and inauthentic, and viewers will drift away. Option 2, a reconciliation is forced. The network, seeing their flagship show circling the drain, could intervene. They could sit everyone down and mediate, forcing a conversation for the sake of the show. But can a wound this deep be healed for the cameras? A forced apology is not a real apology. The resentment would simmer just beneath the surface, creating a different kind of toxic viewing experience. Option 3, the show fractures. Perhaps Little People, Big World as we know it ends, and we see a spin-off. Maybe a show focusing solely on Zach, Tori, and their life in Washington, completely separate from the Roloff farm drama. This would be a huge gamble for TLC, but it may be the only way to move forward. Option 4, the end. This is the one no one wants to talk about. This fallout, on top of the Matt and Zach feud, could be the final straw. The family may decide the money and the fame are no longer worth the constant soul-crushing conflict. Season 25 could very well be the last time we see the Roloffs on our screens. The legacy would end, not with a celebration, but with the quiet, bitter silence of a family torn apart by words that could never be taken back. So, there you have it. The anatomy of a family catastrophe. We've moved past the simple public narrative of a dispute over a farm and uncovered what we believe is the true hidden story. A Cold War ignited by a single devastating comment. Based on our insider report and the mountain of circumstantial evidence, the picture becomes painfully clear. Chris Marek, in a moment of profound misjudgment, allegedly criticized the one thing Zach and Tori Roloff will defend with every fiber of their being, their parenting. He didn't just step on a landmine, he set it off, triggering a chain reaction that has fractured the family, turned his wife Amy into a conflicted diplomat, and thrown the entire future of Little People, Big World into question. The refusal to film together is not a petty squabble. It's a statement. It's a boundary drawn in concrete. And it tells us that for Zach and Tori, the damage done by Chris's words may be far more permanent than any argument over property. A farm can be sold, a business deal can be forgotten. But an attack on your ability as a parent, for many, that is unforgivable. The Roloff family saga has always been a compelling watch because it felt real. their joys, their struggles, their conflicts. They mirrored our own, just on a grander scale. But now the reality has become so painful that it has to be hidden, managed, and edited around. And the question we're left with is, how much longer can they keep up the act before the whole thing unravels for good? That's our deep dive for today. But the investigation doesn't stop here. What do you think? Do you believe our insider's report? Have you noticed the on-screen separation between Chris and the kids? What do you think Chris's motive was? Let me know your theories in the comment section below. I read every single one, and if you made it this far, you are a true member of the LPW update community. Make sure you are subscribed with notifications turned on, because our next report will delve into Karen Chandler's secret role in all of this. And trust me, you're going to want to see it. Thank you for watching. And remember, in the world of the Roloffs, the real story is never the one they tell you.